Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Montana Farm Bureau Field Notes podcast. My name is Haley Droogsma, and I'm back today with another episode of our special podcast series this week for the American Farm Bureau's ASAP, or Agriculture Safety Awareness Program Week. Our Thursday theme is safe lifting, and I'm excited to welcome a special guest with a strong ranching background who is just about to round out her DPT to speak to us about the importance of lifting mechanics in agriculture. Today I'm joined by Macie Martinell. Macie, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, of course, Haley. I'm happy to be here.
We appreciate it. And I know that you grew up on a generational ranch in Dell, Montana. You and your family are longtime Farm Bureau members, and you're about to finish your Doctor of Physical Therapy. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
How did your involvement on the ranch and just in agriculture in general help shape your passion for movement and injury prevention?
So, growing up, we were involved heavily, and we would go out and pitch mangers, pitch hay, just the daily fence tasks and irrigating, lifting lots of dams. And I think growing up, well, this is funny, in junior high, I just naturally was stronger. And so when we got to old enough to be able to lift in high school and whatnot, I would excel, I guess you would say. And so I think that drove me higher to want to pursue the proper body mechanics of your body and the ways to lift while you're out, tackling daily chores on the ranch and really realizing that people don't understand how to take care of like their backs and their necks and their hips. So yeah, it's just kind of drove me to really look into the proper ways of lifting and taking care of your body.
I think there's definitely a parallel there and also sort of a knowledge gap, I would say, in rural Montana, especially as far as proper mechanics goes. So now you're back in Park County working. I'm sure you get some producers in and out of there from time to time. As someone who understands both agriculture and physical therapy, what do you think makes ag producers uniquely vulnerable to some of these lifting injuries?
Well, first off, knowing, ranchers and farmers, they tend to think no pain, no gain, right? And so that tends to put that torsional load on the bodies and the repeated stress, and it just, leads to breakdown of the joints and your spine and your hands and all the things. And so we really see a lot of problems with tears, just the repeated stress. Ranchers often don't listen to their bodies, and so that sends them into more damage, and the body just keeps breaking down, which then causes more problems and it takes longer to fix. It's gone too far, and the ranchers can't get back to where they need to be.
It's very common, especially in the agricultural trades, farmers and ranchers, they tend to put off, seeing people for something or going to the doctor or getting something treated. So it makes sense that that would compound over time and can definitely have potential to get worse. What
Right.
would you say are the most common lifting injuries that you see, especially in, a more rural community, an agricultural community like Park County?
I would definitely see like lumbar disc bulge. That's a common one. And over time, as if you're lifting repeatedly in the wrong way, it can cause ossification into those vertebrae, and then it narrows the openings where the nerves come out from your spinal cord. And pretty soon that starts pinching on those nerves, and then you start getting radiculopathy, which then can cause more problems of your muscles and your legs not functioning properly. And so I that's a big one. Another one that ranchers often have problem is in their hips and their knees, just the joints in general. When you're twisting or offloading it, in a more stress on one limb versus the other, then over time that causes damage, and then pretty soon your joints are out of whack. I mean, if you think about it, a tractor needs oil, grease, fuel, right, to run properly, and your body needs the same thing. You need to take care of it and make sure that your joints are moving in a safe manner and stretching and all those things to keep everything happy and healthy.
I think that's all very important, and the back is definitely like a focus, I think, in this campaign through Agriculture Safety Awareness Program. And just in general, that's probably the pinpoint location that producers tend to struggle with most. So now that we kind of have that addressed, I think it's good to move into some more like tangible, actionable advice. What overall does proper lifting form actually look like? Are there some basic cues that you can give our producers to focus on when they're lifting in any sort of farm and ranch situation?
When you're lifting, you always want to have a neutral spine. So you never want to round your back or overarch it. You always want to have your feet set before you lift. So don't have one foot way out in front or way out to the side. Make sure your shoulder width apart. Just take the extra 10 seconds, to evaluate yourself before you lift an object. Have your toes slightly turned outwards because they fit your hips in line best biomechanically if you have them turned slightly outwards. And make sure your weight is evenly distributed and not something that's way out in front of you because it just puts extra torque on the back. And you want to push your butt out like you're closing a door or of a pickup before when you're bending over, and not lifting with your back. Lift with your butt muscles. We really want to emphasize that because your glutes are big, strong, powerful muscles, and if you lift with your butt, it's going to save your back a lot. And then when you're lifting something on the way up, make sure you're breathing out, and that way you aren't putting overstraining and causing intra-abdominal pressure. And that way it can save your pelvic floor muscles as well. So make sure you have proper breathing mechanics. And yeah, just keeping everything close to the body, and yeah, just no twisting at all. And keep your chest up and belt buckle down.
Perfect. I think that's great advice. And definitely some good, easy cues for producers to sort of implement in their day to day. Another aspect of, farm and ranch life when you're out in the mud, it's snowing right now, there's uneven ground. How does that sort of change the way you should lift?
So, I mean, it's hard. You can't really control, the environment, right? And there's going to be potholes. Yeah, it's going to be muddy, but just take a second and, evaluate if something's not right. Like if the object is too heavy, then I know us ranchers have a hard time asking for help because we like to be independent and do everything on our own.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to emphasize that's really important. If you think it's going to be torsional, like make your spine turn when you lift it, if you're on a hill or something, maybe ask a grandkid or a son or a hired worker to help you get that object off the ground safely, because ruining your back is a lifelong problem, and that extra 20 seconds to get someone help can save you a lot.
When someone is going to lift something heavy, what do you think should be sort of the mental checklist items that you do take in those 20 seconds prior to it?
I think of the acronym FAST. It's an easy one to remember. So F, just make sure your feet are set properly, shoulder width apart. A is for abs. Make sure you are engaging your abs and tightening that core. Your abs are connected to your back muscles, so that also helps engage those. And then you're not putting strain if they're not engaged and tearing something with inside there. S is for shoulders, so just think shoulders are in line over your hips and over your ankles. And then T is turn with your feet. So never keep your feet planted if you're going to lift when you're lifting something and turning, because it just twists that spine. And we want to make sure if you're gonna lift and turn, make sure your feet are going as you turn in line with your shoulders. So that's just an easy way to remember. Just a quick mental checklist, fast.
Totally. And I think that makes it super easy to remember just right off the top of your head. Great. Easy thing
Yeah.
again that producers can implement. And really, it's not asking for much, I don't think. It's not a whole lifestyle change, but just a few quick little habits can really make a difference. You kind of touched on this a little bit that this is sort of a hyper independent community that you're dealing with in agriculture. And the whole trade has really been built on toughness throughout history. How do you think we can balance grit with smart safety practices?
I mean, toughness isn't about pushing through pain, right? It's about having the discipline to do what keeps you working year after year. I mean, that's what a lot of us ranchers and farmers, we like to keep moving. We aren't gonna just stop and just quit working at the age of 60, right? So sometimes the toughest choice is slowing down for, a better lift, getting help with a heavy task. And I think this is really important. If you feel that you have slightly injured yourself, I think addressing it early is a huge indicator. Because pushing through that grit or pain and making it worse can just create more of a problem. Say you hurt your knee. Well, over time, you're going to walk at a weird, you're going to gimp around. Well, that puts torque on your other side of your hips. And so then pretty soon you've got a hip problem on the opposite side. And then pretty soon you have more problems in your back because it's all one chain. And so, like I emphasized earlier, no one runs a tractor without oil changes, greasing, or fixing the small problems early, and your body works the same way. So, small habits like stretching, strengthening, lifting correctly are the human's version of, a preventative maintenance program. And ignoring those things, I feel, eventually leads to breakdowns that are much harder to fix.
Without a doubt. That is great advice. And I think preventative maintenance really is kind of the key point that we are trying to drive home this week with the agriculture safety awareness program. And your guys' family ranch is one of the older ones here in the state. So you can definitely speak to this. How do you think taking care of your body ultimately protects your operation and your family?
You're a critical piece of equipment when it comes to your operation, right? And most family ranches or ranch operations run in smaller teams. And it could be just a couple people, could be, several people that work for you, but you're all a family in one sense or another. Getting an injury creates a domino effect. So if you're hurt, it often leads to delayed work. And say you have to pitch hay for the cows and you're in so much pain, well, do those cows get fed? I mean, time matters in agriculture, and I feel like there's really no off season. We're always busy.
For
There's
sure.
always something going on. And certain jobs sometimes can't wait. It's like calving season, harvest, haying, branding. It can jeopardize an entire year's productivity if you're injured and can put a lot of stress on your family's operation. And I think your experience is really not replaceable, especially in this day and age. And many producers have decades of knowledge. And I think when an injury happens, it can limit mobility and endurance, and that operation can lose access to that knowledge in the field. And taking care of the body helps keep that experience active and usable, and then you're not stuck on the sideline. Also, it hinders your mental health, right? It also protects the next generation. So, like being able to pass it down to the children or grandchildren, keeping everything running right and being there to mentor and support them. And I feel chronic pain changes your life. I mean, if you're always in pain, pretty soon your attitude's unwell and you have sleep problems and just reduces your participation in other activities. And so being healthy enjoys and ensures, time that you want to do that you have on your some of your off time if you're ranching.
Yeah.
I know it doesn't happen much, but enjoying that with your family and whatnot. So I think just taking care of your lifting mechanics is really a good habit and the big idea in protecting your operation and your body itself because your family and workers depend on it. So,
Yeah, well, I think that is a wonderful sentiment to wrap up on. We have continued to say that the most important part of your farmer ranch operation is you. By way of not taking care of yourself, you're not taking care of your farmer ranch either. So I appreciate you so much being willing to sit down and talk to me about this today. I think there's some wonderful advice that you shared and awesome tangible things that our producer listeners can go back and apply.
well, yes. Well, thank you for having me, Haley. And I can't emphasize enough on having proper mechanics and lifting and whatnot. So I appreciate all the time that you're putting in, making sure that this is well known and out there for everyone to hear.
Of course, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thank you.